Hello, and welcome to One Spark Stories, the podcast where innovators, creators, and some unsuspecting risk takers share about navigating highs and lows, laughter and tears, and how sometimes all it takes is one spark of inspiration to find your way to happiness. This podcast will leave you inspired to take action on your own purpose as we connect, create, and celebrate unique sparks around the globe, once again proving that it is a small world after all. Many people talk about feeling a pull to try something new or a calling to a different career. Few see that tug as a sign from a higher power and take action the way that Mark Wells has. Mark has lived a purpose-driven life, including working as a registered nurse, building and selling 3 different businesses, and working in youth ministry for the past 18 years. He's also founded and directed a local nonprofit. And whether he's coaching or spending time with his family, his life commitment is focused on influence in, influence out, helping others realize their purpose, and then helping them platform that purpose towards tangible goals and really influencing others. Today, Mark takes us through an emotional journey, sharing how his faith is what has guided his career, and that his Appalachian roots are a marker of lineage, but not a limit to opportunity. Whether you are a person of faith or not, this conversation will show you the impact that comes from embracing that spark, be it a higher power, the universe, your grandma, and using that as the catalyst that guides your purpose-driven journey. Mark, welcome to One Spark Stories. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I always love when somebody, especially somebody that I really respect and enjoy, is like, you have got to meet this person. And mutual friend, Miss Barb, she immediately said, Katie, you have to talk to Mark because I think your stories are very similar. And he's just got a lot to share with the world. And of course, I'm like, well, I'd love to talk to this person. And then we talked and I'm like, okay, yes, things are aligned. So Mark, help everybody understand a little bit more just about who you are and, sneak peek before we really dig into it.
Sneak peek. I'm a husband of 15 years, a daddy of 4 years, got a little 4-year-old, and I've had several businesses, and I'm a registered nurse. I shifted in and out of multiple fields until I found my space where I currently am residing professionally. So I enjoy these conversations and helping people navigate through their life circumstances as well.
Yeah, and that was when you started to share your story, and we'll let it unfold in a minute. That nonlinear career is something I love the way that you follow passion and purpose. And I am going to backtrack before I get too excited and go that route and learn even further back about you. So starting out, I'd love to know a few things through just a couple questions. So as a child, were you a very imaginative or creative, whimsical kid? Did you have that spark of curiosity?
Creative curiosity to the max, yes.
What was your outlet? What would you say you really would get into to let that shine?
What wasn't my outlet is more like a question. I'm the kid that I was, I played 3 sports at one time while having a job and a girlfriend and all that. So I loved physical activity, hunting, fishing, anything where I could be outside and exerting energy, I was in.
Yeah. So you were definitely an outdoors person. Were you, was there the artistic, or did it come through more of that athletic and, movement?
Good question. Athletic, I've been all of my life. I will say 3 years ago, I tore my ACL and I had a shift. My processing, I changed the way I looked at the world and myself. I realized I'm not invincible. So from 5 years old to 35 is what I tell people. I was nonstop. I did everything you can think of and physically. And then I realized, man, let's put some other things in tune. And so I began delving into some more purpose-driven things in my life, and And so I decided to realize I'm probably a lot older than I really am because I've pushed myself so hard. So let's just accept that. Let's embrace it and let's move on and see what we can do. So I do a lot more coaching than I do active participating, if that makes sense.
It does. I have resigned to being a coach on the sideline of soccer. As much as I love to get out there, the body just doesn't move the same anymore. But it's still great to be involved and to help others find that passion and purpose in it. Now, when you were going through your athletics, was there somebody that really helped you, see sports in a way that maybe was empowering or brought out the best in you? There's good coaches, not so great. But was there one that really stood out as a leader?
Yeah, actually, my name is Mark. I had an uncle, Mark, believe it or not, that he was just, he was into athletics, and he kind of coached me behind the scenes and kind of pushed me to be my best. And he helped me to excel athletically. I became, first team, whatever, in anything I did, just because I listened to him. Even though I was very immature and thought I had all the answers, I was wise enough at least to listen to the pointers he gave me in private. Perhaps if they were in public, maybe I wouldn't have. But he really just told me, not only do you have the ability, but if you practice, set it on fire, go get it. And man, that impacted me. And I knew when I saw him on the sidelines of a track meet or a soccer game, that's exactly what I was going to do.
Do you think that had influence in your professional career? Because owning 3 businesses or having had 3 businesses, being an RN, coaching, ministry, like you've done so much. Would you say that you still hear Uncle Mark's words?
I do. I hear Uncle Mark's words. And then my parents, my dad he shifted into the athletic world a little later. He wasn't raised in it, but my parents are just driven. We're very, I'd say, Appalachian. My mother's from the 51st state of Virginia. And you can do the math there, Virginia. And then my dad's from Kentucky. So you put them together. We're very Appalachian. And we believe in you say what you do, and then you do what you say. And it's that loyalty. And so anything I've done in life that I have found any success, it's because I've made it through the bumps and I got through that. And so my parents have a huge influence to this day on my life. And I'm thankful that they knew when to crack the whip, literally and figuratively, on me, and they knew when to show grace. And they made a huge influence on myself and my siblings as well.
Yeah. Where would you say was that first moment that you launched into your professional career and you thought, okay, here I go? When you hit the ground running, did you know that you were going to make moves? Did you ever feel like I can't exist in one space? Or did you think, hey, I landed here, this is it. I'm going to make my family proud and make this a long-term career?
I just knew that this is it. I'm here and there's no other option than finding the finish line. Where that led from there, it didn't really weigh on me. I didn't really consider this is the space I'm in for the moment. I'm gonna make the best of it. And as my family does, we strike flint and we watch things go up in flames. Most of the time, that's a good thing. Obviously, that sometimes has its negatives, but we're good at making things take off and explode. And I mean, professionally and inspirationally. And so, yeah, my mother's a Protestant Mother Teresa, and she really instilled that in me. And then my dad, just driven, ambitious, hard worker. So.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more. Let's lean more into that professional career. What was it that connected you to that phase 1, working throughout business ownership and being an RN? Tell us a little bit about what led you there and then those pivots.
Great question. I would have to say I was 19 or 20 years old, and I really didn't have any direction in my life. I really didn't. And my brother before me had started a small business. He was younger than me, actually, but he had started the business, and I saw him have some success. He was young, just 17, 18 years old, but he was making more than my dad was. My brother, as a senior in high school, was making more with his business than my dad was full-time at the mill. And I saw that, and something just sparked interest, like, man, but he worked his tail off.
Yeah.
I can do that. And so that sparked an interest. So I started a little business to get through college. And then I had some bumps in college, changed majors. And then right around I was 20, I had this aha moment where I kind of just got my crap together. And that started with God. I just had to realize my purpose was beyond myself. I had somebody else outside of my family that came into my life, and everything changed. Everything changed.
So was that when you shifted into RN, being an RN, or had you decided at that point, this is a career that just feels very service driven? Because just based on my limited knowledge on people in that field, definitely got that servant mentality.
Yeah, I think that's it. You know, my mother engaged that hospitality servant type heart in us. And so, yeah, that was there, but the confidence was lacking. And this gentleman came into my life at that age that was just military. He was a former military pastor. He was a man's man, and that was everything I desired to be. And he basically said, man, go get it. What are you waiting on? And I went to my university with a GPA that they had no business accepting me. And they accepted me on the first go around. So I realized, man, you only get so many opportunities. And I'll be honest with you, I learned how to learn through nursing school. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
High school, I just kind of did what I had to get a 3.0 and make mom and dad happy. But I had to learn how to learn and really learn how to process behavior, scheduling, and my time, and how to get the grades I needed. And it was getting through that nursing degree was a huge stepping stone for me.
Do you think it was a moment that made you more aware as you move forward in your career, as you moved into the businesses and all those different aspects? Do you look back and think, wow, if I didn't know, if I didn't have to go through that challenge of learning how to learn, I don't know that I'd be here right now. You know, I get the feeling that that's something very pivotal for you. So could you talk more to that?
Wow, it's amazing you bring that up. I'm actually writing a book as we speak, and the whole topic is about self-awareness and influence. That was it. I realized this awareness came to me that, yeah, I'm from an Appalachian family. We're good with our hands, putting calluses on them and working hard. But work doesn't just have to be with my hands. My dad said to me just a couple of years ago, Mark, I dig ditches. That's what I do. His point was, I know how to work with my hands, but beyond that, it's kind of foreign to me. But I realized at a young age, if I embrace that and I really challenge myself and allow the right people in my life, why can't I use my mind and my hands? And that was a huge pivotal point for me mentally, emotionally. And getting that degree in my hand, being the first male in my family with a degree, I don't know, it was a moment that I won't ever forget. That alone, just the finishing product.
That is a huge celebration. And I've got some Appalachian roots, and I know as much as, you know, people think that there's opportunity everywhere, there is a level of awareness when you're surrounded by it that makes it seem that way. But that's a huge movement for you to take, to shift away from the notion that I work with my hands and to realize you have so much more. Your dad likely has so much more than he's aware of. And that is, it seems to me, a big driver for you to the work that you're doing now and the movement you've made into your, you know, influence and support within ministry. So how has that come to life now? You know, when was that moment of, aside from the ACL tear and that, like, geez, now I'm on the sideline, but where else would you say that really brought that out?
You know, what you just said briefly on that, everything I do in my life, I want to be reciprocal. I don't want to only be taking or only be giving. I want balance to be in my life. I learned this word homeostasis in nursing school. It's basically a big word to say balance. My dad taught me how to work physically with my hands. I realized in that I could do anything with my hands. But since I went through school and I got that degree in my hand, I realized that my dad, like you just said, is so much more capable than what he gives himself credit. So when I'm with my dad, I make these little cues back to him about how he's capable here in the mind as he gave me as I was capable in my hands. And that has been so rewarding to see all that he embedded in me. I'm now sharing back with him in a different way. He doesn't know I'm doing this, but I go to him all the time like, Dad, that was a great idea. Hey, Dad, what's your thoughts on this? Because he has a business now too. And it's been so neat to see what he put in me. I'm sharing back and we're just feeding on each other. And we're as close as we've ever been. So I didn't want to distract that thought, first of all. And that's been so pivotal to me. And really that to me is the wealth of life. To me, wealth isn't financial. Wealth is time and wealth is knowledge. Because without it, what good's money?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What would you say to people that are really struggling with that notion that, obviously there are financial concerns for people, there's all the things that those needs and then the wants,
Mm-hmm.
but there is something bigger than just that financial piece. How would you tell somebody that is navigating this, crossroads in life to say the wealth isn't the only driver, help move that mindset for them?
Great question. This really answers the last question you were segueing into. And this is where I found my pivot to where I've landed here in the last year or so is I have a 4-step process, if you will, and I call it the core 4. If we can ask why. Why do I exist? Why am I on this earth? Why? You know how many miscarriages, how many abortions, how many people just don't make it into the world? Why am I here? Why? And so if we can consider why, that why will lead to our purpose. Once we find our purpose, we then realize, man, I've got value. There's something here that's materially, I'm worth something, not only tangibly, but I literally am worth something. I have value regardless of what I produce. And then that begs to reciprocate. So you have your why that feeds your purpose feeds your value, and your value says, man, I want everyone to have this. I want everyone to have this experience and to realize this and engage it. And then really chew on it. I'm talking like lick the bottom of the bowl.
Yes.
Engage the process.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That does. That really does. I'm sorry. I'm stuck on licking the bottom of the bowl and imagining life is this big ice cream. And, we don't take time to savor it. We think that we have to just enjoy this little bit and don't be greedy. But when you've worked and you've filled that, with the notion of filling your cup and filling somebody else's, at some point you have to dip into it and make sure that you give yourself credit for what you've done. I think there's a story, and I don't want to quote it wrong, but I believe it was Jack Welch who may have had a medical emergency a number of years back, and in the hospital was in recovery, and one of his friends came in and spoke and said to him, and Jack said, it's really a shame that I have all these fine wines at home and I've never drank them because I think that they need to sit there and wait and wait. And he's like, what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? The time is now to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I've worked so hard for this. So I love the way that you pull it back and say, once you know that why and that purpose and the values, it's all aligned. Live in it and love it. It's okay. Be proud of it. Don't be arrogant, but be proud. So yeah, I totally am on the same page with that one.
That's a great point. One of my favorite slogans, I find it in the New Testament, but it's basically breaking it down to like 3 words: humble, not haughty. I have what I have because I've been given a responsibility, not I have what I have to be above you.
Yeah.
I am at the place that I am in my life and have these opportunities in front of me, not to look down on and look at people as my pawns, but to look at them as opportunities to be a blessing to them. And man, I bet you they can do something to bless my life if I'm looking for it. But are we looking for it?
Yeah. I wonder then, so mentioning, Appalachia is not somewhere that people seem to often focus on the needs. It is an area that is sometimes glossed over. There are a lot of supports that could be given. What would you suggest to people who are looking for ways to connect with others and help them recognize that purpose that they have, to get new perspectives within the communities of Appalachia, wherever it spreads to, any rural community really? How do you encourage people to approach that without coming off as, haughty or arrogant with their needs or their services?
Yeah, that's another great question. What I do, a litmus test for this is, what are your passions? And then what are your gifts? If you can make a list of, okay, these 5 or 6 things, these 3 or 4 are my passions, and these are my gifts. And then you put down like a couple different service industry areas that align with those. I mean, this sounds crazy, but I've sat outside of Kroger's before, and I've just waited till I found someone hobbling in that had a Vietnam hat on or something, and I go grab the cart from their hand. It's that easy. My wife could be getting groceries, and I'm sweating, bored, and frustrated. Why is she taking so long? Or I can say, I'm going to find somebody, and I'm going to go serve them.
Seek it out. Yeah.
And the more that I serve, the more I get my attention off myself, and the more I'm able to better live, humble, and not be so focused on myself. Because when we spend time thinking about ourselves, things go south pretty quickly when we get too caught up in me.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And as much as it may pain people to hear, nobody thinks about you nearly as much as you think about yourself.
That's exactly right. You know, most of the opportunities in my life that have come, and even now, things that have come in my path, it's because I served up front. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm in a business group called the Business Network Institute, and their slogan is "Givers Gain." It's really that simple. If you're willing to give to someone, they're eventually going to say, "Hey, what's your story? What can I do for you?" Yes. So I speak a lot, and I tell people, I'm like, "Hey, I use scriptural references to this, but even if you want to just say every day, just modern everyday life, go serve someone." You know, there's a scripture that I love that says, "Seek his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be given to you." So I'm like, hey, if you want to be selfish, go serve someone. Go serve someone, because you're going to receive some kind of dividend on the backside regardless. And a lot of times that dividend is an educational experience more than it is anything tangibly in your hands.
Yeah. Simple conversation, little hello can open a dialogue into a new understanding. And those perspective shifts are what allow us to, create new opportunities, to create a better understanding. And while we may not all agree, I don't want us to. I want the challenge to understand and the challenge to, innovate within our own purposes. So what would you say has been something you've created out of, this innovative spirit that you have seen the opportunity and the impact that it's had?
Wow, you're going to get me emotional now. I'm thinking of people. I start thinking of people in their lives and relationships. There's several people I'm thinking of right now that are in my mind. I love to see someone and realize their capability, but realize, man, they're not quite where they want to be or where they think they should be, but they're working their tail off. And just lean into that a little bit and just feed opportunities or point them in the right direction. And I just love anybody, that's all of us, even myself. None of us are there, but just finding people and saying, where do you want to be? Where are you at now? And where do you want to be? And then saying, well, I know someone who can connect you to this, or, hey, I did this one time. And then I love to get feedback and say, hey, how'd it go? You're never going to believe this. The person you connected me to, or thanks for giving me this opportunity. It opened up this door. And they're coming to you like you're some superhero when you're just a guy looking to serve. And it almost it raises the platform higher for you than it did them, but your whole point and motive was for them. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes. I love that. How did you get to that shift? Because again, going through business ownership, and you've had several, you and I have spoken about, that time that you were leading teams and you had it all. What was it that you would say really shifted that need to move away from the business side and into the servant influence, I'll say? You really just wanted to help inspire that passion in others.
I'm a faith-based guy, and I feel like whether I'm the one that's going to stand in front of a stadium of people and influence the masses, or I'm going to influence one person that may influence the masses, what am I good for? What is my capability? What is my purpose beyond the tangibles? So what? You have a nice house or, toys, whatever, and that's okay to have those. But beyond that, what do you have? And so I got to this place where I just felt I would be on jobs with the business, and I would just look at people. At picking up materials or at the job site, and I would just get inundated with, I wonder what they're going through. The woman pushing her little kid down the sidewalk, and the kid's screaming, and she looks stressed. And I'd be like, wonder what she's dealing with. I wonder what's going on in her life. And I got to the point where I was literally in my office counting this large stack of money one day. I'm not mentally ill. I don't have cognitive processing issues, but it wasn't audible. But it was like God himself said, I was counting this large stack of money. And he said, what if these were souls? What if these were people? I'm like, oh, crap.
Gives me chills. That's big. Yeah.
You're counting dirty paper. You're putting all this time and energy into counting dirty paper. And nothing wrong with business, nothing wrong with making money. None of that's bad. But in my life at that time, it changed on a dime. And that's when we jumped in. We sold the last business. And my wife was pregnant we weren't able to get pregnant for years. She was pregnant with our first and only child. We had a child. She was pregnant with our first child. I'm sorry. We sold our home. We sold the business, and we jumped in to the nonprofit world without zero financial promise. I had zero. My family, even the faith-based family, are like, you nuts. You're crazy. What are you going to do? Like, God's awesome, yes, but you're crazy. And I'm like, well, he kind of created me. He kind of created all of us. So he's got me. And people are like, okay. And it was so cool just to see just little nugget after little nugget, just things come in. And these stories, I have a list of stories that I keep and I record. You can't make up. You just can't make up, because we said, hey, we're willing to give it all. Mm-hmm. Nothing special here. I'm an Appalachian country boy that's willing to say, okay, God, this is your calling on my life. You put the people in front of me. You tell me what to do. I'm your conduit.
The doors opened up, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah. That's
very cool and a very powerful testament to say, I heard it and I embraced it. Not enough people really embrace it. And that is something I hope you continue to share the value of it for yourself. And a lot of why I'm doing this is sharing new perspectives, because so often, to your point, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We've all had moments where we're showing up. We might be at a ball game, but mentally, there's a lot going on. Social media, you see all the highlight reels. There's a lot to unpack behind there. And hopefully, as we uncover more stories, people will realize the value of slowing down and authentically connecting, hearing people's stories and the value, and understanding that, a voice from Appalachia or man using his hands is every bit as valuable as the corporate lawyer from Manhattan. There are so many stories that need to be told. So I love it. Tell us more about what you're doing now. I know you were just down in New Orleans doing work, like you are moving and grooving. What does this look like for you today, knowing that whatever the call may be, you're going to take it? What does the work look like now?
Thank you for asking. I appreciate your interest. I do a lot of public speaking. My interest is striking Flint. Going to someone and saying, hey, your confidence, like observing, your confidence is low. You don't seem like you have a lot of people believing in you, but dude, you are endlessly capable and strong in this area. And what if you embrace this? What if you had someone kind of behind you and putting their thumb in your back and checking in with you? What could you do? And so I speak a lot, churches, schools, nonprofits, businesses, and you can call it motivational speaking. Sometimes I preach, whatever you want to call it, but helping people really engage in their true purpose and understanding how to better ignite their value so that they can share that with others. And so I spend a lot of my time writing. I'm in the middle of writing a book that's about what we're talking about. It's perspective shift. I think since I was just 20 years out of high school, I've been only 20 years out, but in 20 years since just getting out of high school as an adolescent, the shift technologically, society is moving at a pace that who can keep up with? Relationship, what's that? Just to stop and pause and breathe and just take a 5-minute vacation, life's pretty stinking amazing.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with someone the other day that was struggling. I said, where do you live? They gave me the city, state, and the United States of America. Okay, you live in the United States of America. Let's break this down. You are one in very rare statistic. Just the fact that you live in the U.S. Okay, You've got a spouse that loves you? Absolutely. Amazing spouse. Okay. That's even a greater, minority that you are. Okay. You have children? Yeah. Children. Great. Yeah. Great relationship. Do you know how many people don't have children or don't have a relationship with their children? Do you have any friends? Oh man, I got a lot of friends. Great friends. I go to church. Okay. So let's break this down. You live in the United States of America, where wealth and money and food and things are pretty accessible at your disclosure, whatever you want to put into it. You've got relationships all around you. Help me understand. Well, Mark, I never thought of it that way. One thing didn't go my way, and all of a sudden the world is crashing in on me. When really the core things that matter are really pretty good. And man, not so bad, actually. Why am I complaining to you? What are you dealing with? And then I ended up telling them about my day, and my day was actually kind of cruddy. And they were like, man, I helped you, and I was the one struggling. You see the paradigm shift? But we're so busy chasing. We're so busy chasing. And why?
Yeah, that's the question. For what? For what? Yeah. So I want to make sure that we celebrate you, but in a way that maybe we don't give ourselves enough accolades for. So to take it all the way back to that self-awareness mindset, what is something about yourself that if you were handing yourself, let's just say we were high-fiving you, Mark to Mark, there you go, high five it. What is something that you are really proud of and want to make sure that you celebrate in whatever capacity that looks like?
Seeing people as God sees me. That's it. I pray that every day. God, let me see people as you see me, because I, at the end of the day, am a screw up. But yet he keeps opening these amazing doors and showing me, dude, keep listening to me. You got this. I tell my little boy every night before we put him to bed, we say our prayers and I rub his head and we have some little hoorah moment. But I tell him every night we pray that. I said, you learn to love people like God loves you. And if we can do that, it keeps me focused. It keeps my focus linear, because we get so distracted. But really, at the end of the day, if my focus is to be more like God, Christ, it's pretty simple.
You got that right.
So that's it. That's where I land.
I love it. Well, Mark, any last thoughts or words? I feel like that right there that you just said is so much that we could wrap it on it, but I want to make sure to leave it open. Anything else that you want to make sure to get across to people, or where they could even connect with you further?
Yeah, absolutely. You can connect with me. You can get on social media, Mark Wells. You can find me on social media or via email. We can share that however you would like. And then if I could leave one message, I want to say, could I give a brief 1-minute story? When I was in college, I was running out of a class, running to my truck to head to a job, doing productive things. And a young man came to me that I hadn't seen in several years since high school. He was in a group at the school that I went to in high school. He hung out with people that didn't quite make good choices, and you could tell he was struggling through high school. I didn't know him well. He came to me in college, ran into him in the parking lot, and he wanted to talk. And I could just see there was something in him that was like desiring someone's affection and interest. Not inappropriately, just someone to be in a space. And I saw that. I engaged it. I said, hey, maybe we can catch up sometime, because I knew I had to get to work. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not blaming myself for what I'm about to tell you. But I got a phone call 2-3 weeks later from a family member of mine telling me that young man had taken his life. So there's much power in pause. Take a 5-minute vacation. Reassess your moment. Reassess your life. Think about those that you interacted with that day. Is there someone you overlooked? And then if you're on the other end, you're struggling, you don't know where to go, you find someone that looks like Jesus and just start going towards them until they come back. That's it.
There is a lot of power in the pause. So thank you for that reminder. It's one that I hate that had to happen to bring that awareness, but in that awareness, we can only do better. So Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate you and the work that you're doing and the purpose-driven life you have found and continue to lead.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having me.
All I can say is wow. Talk about needing time to take pause and think about all the powerful words that Mark shared today. When he was talking about counting the stack of money and said, instead of dollars or paper, what if this was souls? I could feel my breath catch. For anyone that is dedicated to a life of service, which I think includes pretty much any customer-facing service, you know the impact that comes when you focus more on someone's story and journey than the profit they can provide you. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing this incredibly personal story to help live your purpose-driven life while also helping others in pursuit of theirs.
Fun fact, the screwdriver was invented before the screw. Isn't that crazy?
Screwy. Later, Tater.